Folks, Armen Hammer here, and the following is an interview with the one and only Kristi Eramo O'Connell. Kristi is a veteran of the CrossFit Games, multiple top 10 finishes. She took the 2019 game season to compete on a team at the CrossFit Games, but came back with a vengeance in the 2020 season, qualified for the CrossFit Games, and is rip roaring and ready to get after it with this new format, this new online format that they recently announced. So we spent a little bit of time talking about the games, the new format and dates for the games, the potential changes that could be coming down the pipeline. We talked a little bit about Eric Rosa and what types of things that he's going to be bringing to the CrossFit ecosystem. We talked about her role as an affiliate owner and how COVID has affected all of their operations and what types of opportunities there are through all of that hardship. We talked about her fantastic YouTube channel, just a whole lot of different things. Great conversation. Very excited to see her compete in this online version of the CrossFit Games, and very excited to see what is next for her and her husband, Patrick. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll catch you guys very soon. There's a lot of things to talk about right now, Kristi. Like, the games is back again, another delay, another format change, but now we have concrete dates. We have, you're sort of stepping away from individual last year and then showing up on a team and doing pretty well at the games on a team last year, and then coming back with like a vengeance this season for an individual competition. There's a lot for us to talk about. And I guess the first thing that I want to ask is, how are you feeling now that there is actually a format and a date for the CrossFit Games that you can probably rely on being accurate?
I still feel like it's not really real, in the sense that it's virtual, but at least I had the opportunity to do the Rogue Invitational, which was also virtual. So we got a little bit of practice under our belt, thankfully. But to me, it's just, I'm still waiting to hear more details, but I am excited. And I was talking to my husband about this morning, actually, is like, we have 3 more weeks of like really hard training, 3 more weeks. We are almost there. And it's crazy to think it's already the middle of August because I qualified in the Open last year. So it's been 11 months of focus. Like, no matter what, is like, we do take an off season, but I still always in the back of my head, I'm like, the CrossFit Games, like, that's the end goal. So we're finally getting there. So to have all of that stuff and like have an actual date is very exciting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's something I think a lot of people don't really think about, is this idea that before you would qualify in May or June, and the games were 8 to 10 weeks later, somewhere in that range. And now you guys qualified it's going to be almost a year to the date of when the games occurred to when the Open qualifications happened. And that is a very long season, especially with all the stressors of everything that's happened in the interim of those, 11
Yes.
or 12 months. How are you sort of dealing with the start stop of, ramp up for games training and then the date gets pushed, so you kind of roll back down a little bit? Or did you just never do that? Were you just ready to rip and roar every single time?
I definitely wasn't ready to rip and roar every time. For sure, that Rogue Classic or the Rogue Invitational, when that happened, that was really helpful because we were all in quarantine. And I, just like everyone else, struggled at first in the beginning of trying to find the motivation and wondering what we were training for and kind of holding on to the CrossFit Games. And then a lot was happening. And so having that Rogue Invitational was key because you came out of that pretty motivated. Competing's fun and it kind of relights that fire. So that was really helpful. And then setting up for the end of July, we had all of our blocks and we had our weeks and we had everything set up, our progression. And then that gets moved back. And it's like, okay, like, there's absolutely no way I can sustain this intensity and this volume through originally it was the end of August. Like, that is not happening. Something will happen. I will get injured. I will be burned out. I've learned just from being a competitive athlete my whole life, burnout is a real thing. So you have to be hungry and you have to want to go to the gym. And yes, there's the days you don't want to, but once you get into it, you're fine. And so we kind of looked at our calendar and just kind of dialed back a little bit as to where, okay, let's start focusing on a few other things. Let's not ramp the intensity up quite yet. So we did dial back a little bit. And then when they pushed it to the end of September, I went ahead and took a deload week. So that was 2 weeks ago now, just to make sure I could, give my body just a second to kind of recoup and come back to life and for the final push. And mentally and physically, for me, that was really key.
Yeah, it's just so, I've heard so often from athletes that games training is the best training. It's so much fun. It's so varied, especially back in the day when regionals were a thing. It would get very repetitive for, you were in the central regional, you were always competing, always last or second to last. So you do the workouts, I'm sure 10 times before it showed up on game day. And,
Yes.
that gets super
Yeah.
boring and repetitive. So the fact that for games training, you get odd objects, you get outside a lot, you get to do more swimming and biking, things that are only ever going to show up at the games. But at the same time, the trade-off is that is a very, very fast fuse. I mean, that burns
Yeah.
fast, and the volume and intensity that's involved in making that happen is, it's like it's deep. It hurts and it's deep, but the payoff is.
Yes. Yeah.
As far as the format for the games goes, you mentioned that you guys don't really have a lot of details, and the comparison that I've been trying to figure out is it going to be more like the Open where you're given a bunch of workouts and you can do them as you please, or is it going to be more like Rogue where it's very regimented, very scheduled, and very structured? Do you have any idea about which direction it's going to be in?
That's really interesting. And we don't know. We really have no idea if we'll be allowed to redo the workouts, because in the Open you can redo them. I'm a big advocate for not redoing them, because I think just giving it your best effort that first time and just testing it to see what you can do, kind of spur of the moment, is one of my favorite things about the games. And I think it says a lot about you as an athlete, how you can adapt and adjust. So I'm really hoping they don't allow us to redo them. We all have our ups and downs, and we all have to work through those when in competition. But as far as Rogue versus the Open, I do think that they will give us a list of events, and there will have to be competed in or completed in that order. And I think that they'll have a little bit more structure in that sense, because it makes a really big difference on how you pick and choose what order you want to complete the events. And that could kind of shift and change the whole competition. And I'm not sure if that's really the route that they want to go. So I'm hoping that they at least give us our set events, and that they are event 1, 2, 3, and they have to be in that order, just to kind of level the playing field across everyone competing.
Yeah. It's interesting to think of the games being split into this qualifying round that's online and then an in-person round that's just the top 5, because
Yeah.
you always have to ask the question, what can you test that guarantees you the top 5 is correct? And I
Yeah.
wonder, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think that they should that they should program, and what would you want
Oh
to see?
gosh. Well, I think everyone knows, or if they don't, I like the running, the swimming, the biking. That stuff's probably not going to appear. Let's be real. There's probably not a great way to test it. And I know, like, running outside, but then you start to think, okay, let's all go to a track. Well, in some places it's really cold and icy, and it could be super windy, where if you set a world record on a track and there's a tailwind or a headwind, whatever, that throws things off. So the fact that we're all doing them on tracks all over and the weather is a huge variable there, that could also be an issue. So we probably won't see that stuff. I think just hitting different time domains, so making sure that they test a longer workout for more aerobic capacity, making sure that they have a heavier workout, probably a 1 rep lift of some sort, some gymnastics stuff, and then trying to make sure the time domains aren't all the same. So we don't want to have 10 5 to 7 minute workouts, because then we're testing that same energy system. So just making sure everything is varied across the board. And I know it's kind of a toss up right now between 2 or 3 days. I would like to see 3 days, because I think they can test more stuff, and our ability to handle the volume and the workouts, which the other thing is scoring, right? So there's 30 of us, which is a good thing. There's a lot that allows for movement within the scoring, but when you get out to those top 5, I'm curious what that looks like, because say someone comes in and wins, events 1 through 4, and there's 5 people, that could be a hard gap to make up, because there isn't as much wiggle room there. So I think it's a new format. I think it's interesting. It's exciting that they're doing something, but I would like to see just all the different domains, and just making sure that there are the body weights, the heavier lifts, the gymnastics, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The scoring issue is definitely, It's going to be a challenge. They probably have to have some sort of mathematician on staff
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
called in, to actually help them out with that, because, we saw last year the individual competition on the men's side, Matt at one point had the opportunity to win every single remaining event. And yet if Noah had taken second in every remaining event, he would not have been able to make up that points gap. And you can say, oh, well, maybe Matt should have done better earlier in the week, but that's not really the
Right.
point. The
Right.
point is, the scoring system needs to allow for, some sort of racing to occur.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just like defeats itself. And that,
Yeah. It's not as exciting.
and the outdoor stuff, man, like you've done really well at the games. You placed 8th your rookie year, right? You've been top 10 a couple of times.
Mhm.
You do well
Yeah.
in the open, but generally game day in person is where you really shine. And it's such a shame to think that, the events that you would be able to crush the most, those like longer endurance or like monostructural included events, are maybe going to be the ones that they first jettison. But, on the other side of
Yeah.
it, like, do you really want to see him program like a marathon row that you have to do in your own living room?
No, I don't ever want to row a marathon again. Like, that's an easy answer. I'll give up my monostructural strength to not do a marathon row again. Please, Dave, don't program another marathon row.
How are you feeling about, we have obviously this very, very soon to occur, like looming over the horizon, 1 month away, CrossFit Games, opening online version or whatever. But how are you feeling about
Yeah.
this coming season, whatever the next season ends up looking like, the 2021 season? Like, we don't really know what the qualifying is going to look like. We have an idea that maybe the open is back in February, March, but that still isn't exactly confirmed. How are you feeling about that?
Gosh, I haven't even gotten there. I've started to let that creep into my head just a little bit. Is I saw someone post like, "Hey Dave," on his Instagram live, like, "What does 2021 look like?" And I was like, that's a great question. We're still wrapped up in 2020. I really have no idea, and I think it would be awesome to see the open move back to February or March, just because for those of us coming off in September, the people who make top 5, to be coming out at the end of October and then be asked to perform at a high intensity before the year end, I think it's just a little bit unfair. This has been a super long season, and not saying people wouldn't do it and they couldn't do it, they absolutely could. But I think to let the body recover, because we put a lot of stress and strain on our body, and it's not only our body, but it's our minds as well. Like I led on to you in the beginning, I've been thinking about this, like, you wake up and you think about it every single day, and it's what drives us. And yeah, we had some fun over the holidays and we did relax, but it's always in the back of your head. And so to give people just a little bit of a break to breathe before the next season kicks off would be awesome. But I think the open will probably be February, March. I think it'll be spring, which I think is really exciting and a great time to have it. I'm not sure again what sanctionals will look like or things like that. So I guess for me is like I've started to let myself think, but it seems so unknown as well that I'm like, okay, I'll just stay focused on 2020 for now, and then we'll see what happens.
You had a really good experience competing in both of these variations of the games. You did really well when it was super regionals, the toughest regionals that ever existed. You've done really well in sanctional competitions. You've sort of adapted well to both versions of the games that we've seen in the past 3 or 4 years. So, would you want to see a return to like that extreme structure of what the regionals were like, or do you like some of the freedoms that came with the sanctional structure?
Yeah, and that's a tough question. I loved regionals. I absolutely loved it. And I think also from a spectator standpoint, it was incredible. I know my husband and I, we would watch every single regional. We all tested the same workouts, which was a blast. And to see people get faster and stronger over the weeks because they were adapting and adjusting strategies that they had watched other people use, I thought was super cool. So that was really fun. But at the same time, I also like sanctionals because it gives us athletes more of an opportunity to kind of pick and choose and have a little bit more say with your season. Because say you come down with the flu the regional weekend, I mean, I think it's happened. I think Rich had it one year, and of course he made it through. But say we're not all rich. But if you are sick and you've trained and you are super fit and you're ready, but something unfortunate happens that weekend, that's your season. Like, you're done. So from that aspect, I really didn't enjoy that. And I don't really think that's fair to the athletes putting in all of the hard work. I wish we could find a balance somehow. I also think more and more athletes are making it their life. It's their career. It is a professional sport that, people are dedicating everything to. And with the regional structure, it's just a little bit harder to make a living through doing that. You get one opportunity to try to make, or one, qualify, punch your ticket, and two, I think it paid like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's harder to, you can't count on paying your rent with that or anything along those lines. So I think just trying to find a way to standardize it like the regional format, however, let athletes plan their season a little bit and also have more than one opportunity to punch their ticket.
Yeah, the professionalization is a really interesting point, because that's something that the athletes and really stakeholders in general have been trying to fight for years. This has been, I feel like we've been talking about some sort of
Yeah.
unionization or something to help the professionalization of the athletes in some way for the entire time that I've been doing CrossFit, and that's like 2008. So even
Yeah.
before it was a thing, people wanted it to be a thing. And now we have the PFAA, the Professional Fitness Athletes Association, I think is what that stands for. And are you involved in that in any way? Are you like a member of that?
I'm just on the assembly, like the general assembly.
Okay,
So I'm
cool.
not on any of the specific boards, but I've been on the calls and just listen to everyone chat. And so they'll send out surveys or whatever, and you kind of just submit your thoughts or your opinions. But yeah, so I've been involved very, very slightly with it.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a cool idea to give the athletes a say, in the sense that with a voice together. So if we feel unsafe or something's putting us at risk or things like that, it's just making sure that we do have a say at the table. And also, I think it's just kind of, it makes it feel a little bit more professional in that sense. There's lots of player associations in many, many sports. So I think just that's a step in the right direction for us for sure.
Yeah. Do you see that relationship between the athletes and HQ improving? Because it really hasn't been great in historically. Like, it just hasn't been a reciprocal relationship. It's really been, do what I say, and if you don't, then there's someone else that will type situation.
Yeah, I think it is improving, and I think that also starts with Eric as well. I think he wants to hear what we have to say. I think he understands the sport is a cool part of CrossFit. It makes CrossFit special. So I do believe that with HQ that they're also working through changes and through things. And I do believe they want the best for us. And they also want to see, they work really hard to be able to put on the CrossFit Games. And I think they would like to see that relationship improved as well. So I am optimistic about it. And I do think it's going to improve.
That's funny. So bringing up Eric, it's really interesting. If a few years ago told me, like, future me had popped in and told me, hey man, at some point very, very soon, Greg Glassman's going to sell CrossFit to a man named Eric Rosa, I would have thought I was crazy. But
Yeah.
here we are. I mean, the 2020 has been a very, very strange year. And Eric is an interesting sort of wrinkle in what a lot of people were thinking would be just the death of CrossFit. And it seems like just his presence and his ability to sort of communicate a little bit better and tell people a little bit more about what he thinks he should be doing and where CrossFit should sit has actually given people a much more hopeful outlook as to what CrossFit will look like 5 years, and both like professionally and as the methodology and for the affiliates and everything. How are you feeling about Eric as, the new owner, the new CEO of CrossFit?
I'm really excited about it. I think, like you're saying, I would have never believed it. But I do think it's really cool because he does CrossFit. He's 50 plus and he's super fit. He understands it. It changed his life. And I think he gets that camaraderie, and I think he gets the piece that we all gravitate towards so much. And I also think he understands that the sports side is separate from the affiliates, and the amount of hours and time that we have to put in to train to be at the level that we're at. So I think that I'm very excited. He seems super knowledgeable. I think it's cool he's coming in as an affiliate owner, as a master athlete who's super fit, and then also has other experience in other business areas that I think will all tie together and continue, you know, hopefully a positive path for CrossFit in the sense of like, the name, right? So I want to get my friends involved. My mom and dad are involved. My sister's involved. Like, I hope other people want their family members to join because it's such a positive thing and it can change people's lives. And I believe that I feel very optimistic that he's on that same page. And I think it's going to be good. I'm sure for him, it's just been mad chaos. I can't imagine stepping into what he stepped into. So there's definitely, with anything, there's a learning curve, but I'm sure for him, it's kind of like he can exhale because now or I don't know, maybe it's ramped up. I'm not sure, but he's working through everything. And I think it's just, there is a learning curve. So I think we will see the changes come.
Yeah. Have you got a chance to talk to him?
I did get to talk to him.
What
Yeah.
did you think?
I thought he was awesome. He listened, and he just kind of listened to things that I had to say from an affiliate owner, from an athlete, from the unique circumstance of my mom competing at the games 3 times with myself. So an athlete with a master, and then also just kind of everything sport related and our backstory, where I went to school, all about him. And I think he just listened, and I thought that was really cool. But I think he has huge goals for CrossFit in general, and that's exciting. Like, I'm a goal-driven person, and I like hearing when people set big goals. And yeah, I think it's going to be cool. I think there are changes coming, and it's going to be good stuff.
From the affiliate side of things, do you have a sort of vision of what you would want CrossFit to help with, or how you'd want them to support you in the future? Or are you cool with how it's been?
I think just having a little bit more from HQ would be cool. I think that we're all on this big globe, right? And I think there's a way it makes it feel smaller is through CrossFit. If you say I CrossFit, people understand that if they also do CrossFit. And so I think what would be cool is just having some kind of unified system, not saying we lose our individual kind of vibe and not the word I'm looking for. What makes us, individual flavor. Like, if you go into a box, each box is going to be very different, right? So each box has a different vibe. They have a different atmosphere. They have a different community. Their programming's different. I think just that's cool. And I like that we're all standalone entities. However, I do think just having a little bit more to where we're a little bit more unified in some way would help, if that makes sense. So whether that's a system, if we all have, and say Wodify is the one system that every gym uses. So when you're a drop-in, maybe you could search on Wodify to find out what gym you can find. However, it's an individual gym. It's not like a Planet Fitness or something like that. But then you could log your results having done it at that gym and still get your workouts, keep your results, and have a really cool tracking system or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm really excited about with his sort of past is he's a tech guy, and CrossFit really blew up when it embraced technology, putting the website up, doing all the workout of the days on CrossFit.com, really embracing new media and YouTube and broadcasting. That's when CrossFit had its biggest growth. And it has seemed to move away from the technology aspect of it. It really isn't like a cutting edge tech company. And I'm not sure CrossFit ever should be something like an Uber or like Facebook, but the fact that it has sort of not taken advantage of what could be such a huge propellant for it as a business and for the affiliates and the growth of the entire economy, the ecosystem that is CrossFit. That's one of the things I'm really excited with Eric. He just seems that exact experience coming into play in the CrossFit space could just be gasoline on the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before it's kind of up to ourselves to market your box and your gym. And I think it's still up to ourselves. However, marketing for CrossFit in general, like you're saying, with YouTube, or maybe people see stuff on to where it's not intimidating. And they're like, wow, I could do this because really it's a fitness methodology. And it's a way to get people fit in a community with accountability, discipline, dedication, hard work, all of the above. And it's a place for them to find that community, to where they're not alone trying to do this. And I think, like you said, if we can use that little piece to kind of get it out there a little bit more, I really think that will benefit people in so many ways.
Yeah. Do you have do you have sort of members that were really interested in what was going on at CrossFit HQ? Like, did it filter through into your general clientele?
I think for us, we just kept like a clear line of communication with them that we've tried to foster and build just a very strong, supportive community to where it's not necessarily about the competitive athlete, but it's just about us working hard together. And so originally they were like, hey, we trust you guys to make the right decisions. And they weren't overly concerned. What they wanted to do is keep sweating with their friends and keep that community vibe and keep doing what they were doing, because they felt like in our gym was the one space with everything else happening in the world that they could just come and not have to worry about anything but their workout, feeling good and sweating with their friends. And that was the vibe that we tried to keep with them. And we'd send emails and stuff. It's like, this is where we are. This is where we stand. Obviously we don't agree with the statement or whatever tweet was sent out, and just kind of keeping that clear communication. And that was really about the extent of it for us with them. People weren't really talking about it. They just came in and they wanted a place where they could just work out and kind of have stress relief, because that's what it is for them. And that's the atmosphere that we were trying to foster.
Yeah, my brother and I were affiliate owners for 5 or 6 years in Los Angeles, and this was back, 2010, 2011, and on. And we always made it really clear. Our coaching staff was in the know with what was going on in CrossFit and the industry and at HQ, because they had to get their L1s and they had to know who the players were and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But our general members were very much not interested. It wasn't even that we were trying to purposefully like move them away from what's happening, because they just didn't care. It didn't matter to them that there was a CrossFit HQ. All they cared about were our doors being open, our gym being successful, our community thriving. And I think that's something that a lot of gyms have done, whether they know it or not. Like, they just create their own little family, and they should be insulated in a way, which is, it's good to hear, because then when you have something like that happen at CrossFit HQ with Greg Glassman and all that insanity that occurred, it's really easy to make the distinction, say, hey guys, like, we use the methodology, that is not us. Or in any sort of situation, where you can have that type of a difference. Did you guys have yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's a great way to say it, is like, we use the methodology. We also use other fitness methodologies, right? So I think it's one piece, it's a piece to what we do. And like you said, is like, we aren't CrossFit HQ. We do love the methodology, and it's, proven to get results and to leave people feeling great. And we keep supporting that as well.
Yeah. I've always wondered, by the way, if they would ever approve of an affiliate named CrossFit High Quality. You just go with CrossFit HQ, and then you could have your own.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
I don't know.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. The shutdowns, like the COVID shutdowns, how long were you guys, seriously affected? Because you're in Ohio, so are you guys open again now, or are you back to some sort of normalcy?
Yeah, so we are open, and we actually opened much earlier than we anticipated being able to open. I think we shut down on March 17th. I still remember I was getting ready to coach 3:30 class. It was 3:00, and the governor came on at 3:00 and was like, effective tonight, all gyms closed, and everything else. And I just started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is, and I knew it was coming, but the emotion of actually having to close your doors was just overwhelming. Like, it just flooded my body. I was standing there with my dad, and I just had tears. He's like, it's okay. And we were very fortunate. We kind of didn't skip a beat. We had stuff loaded literally that night and prepped that night for our members. They came in and took all of our equipment, but we were closed to answer your question, from March 17th to the June 1st. And we were able to open up June 1st. We kept thinking it was going to be longer, but in Ohio, there was a lawsuit with I think 40 plus gyms that had signed. And so I don't know if that expedited things. I'm not really sure, but we were able to open June 1st. And with our facility, we're super fortunate. We have basically 2 of our walls are big bay garage doors, so we can open everything up and get super awesome airflow. And then we've just created 16 lanes. We actually put it on our YouTube channel. We added to our rig, so we now have 80 foot of rig. So everybody has their own 4 foot and 6 foot section. So just the way our gym was set up, we're super fortunate. And we noticed at first people were maybe a little bit slower to come back, or we'd see a friend testing it maybe for their friend who had a high risk family member, and then all of a sudden their friend was back in the gym. So we've just kind of been listening to them, and they all really like it. And so far for us, we're very fortunate that we haven't had to close again or go outside, but we've been open since June 1st.
That's awesome. That is very fortunate. I'm happy to hear that, because, you know, it is very strange times to go back to a gym in a situation like this. It can get a little unsettling, you know, depending on what type of work you have, or, you know, what your living situation is like. It's good to hear that you guys are, you know, not just open, but also it sounds like crushing it. An 80-foot rig. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we have an 80-foot rig, which is like, whoa. We had a 62 or 64, and we actually did this before they forced us to shut down. So we had taped lanes. We're like, okay, we put out all the boxes. Everybody's equipment is literally in their lane. So it did force us to cap our classes more than we wanted. But now that we have 16, I think it actually has probably been a good thing for some CrossFit gyms. My husband and I were talking about this. It's like sometimes you go into a CrossFit gym and it's like the garage feel, and it's kind of grungy, and it's not like, you don't see sanitizer everywhere and towels everywhere pre-COVID, right? Now you go in, there's sanitizer and towels everywhere. People wipe everything down. It stays super clean. So I do think there's just something to be said in making it a little bit more professional. And we have 16 people, where sometimes we didn't used to cap our classes and we'd get 28 or 29 with one coach. That's really unreasonable. So 16 is we're usually between 12 to 16 every class, very reasonable number, to where the coach can do a great job coaching, have great interaction, and people get good takeaways. So I think for us, it just forced us to change and adapt to maybe some things that we should have looked at before. And so for us and our members, everything seems to be going great, or as good as we could hope for these strange times. And we're just trying to be positive with it.
That's good. That's good growth mindset. Take the positivity you can out of you know, some
Yeah,
sort of challenge. Look at the opportunity instead of how hard.
exactly.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about actually is your YouTube channel, because you have a fantastic YouTube channel. Like, the content you put out is it's personable, it's well developed, it's like thoughtful, it's from a perspective of, you know, an elite athlete who also has like members that they communicate with on a regular basis. You know, like, don't do this when you're rowing. It's very helpful and well thought out. You know, how did you decide to actually take the leap into starting and growing this like content?
Yeah, this has been probably one of my favorite projects and journeys so far. I never ever really would have thought that I would be one of the ones on YouTube, but interacting with people in the gym, I kept being like, you should share this stuff with people, like to Patrick and myself, because we're a team and it's the two of us. And he's taught me pretty much most of the stuff that I know. He's been around CrossFit since 2007. We do our due diligence. We do our, you know, we watch videos, we do our reading, we try to learn as much as we can. And then through competition. And so just coaching people, and the people that would come up after class and be like, you helped me so much. So we started kind of trying to think about it. And I was like, well, this year is going to be a fun, different year, not knowing 2020 was coming, but just coming from team back to individual and doing things like that. I was like, let's just start to share some of the content. And naturally, with sharing some of the content, it's kind of weird. I break things down without realizing that I do it. So I just want to help people. And I think that comes from coaching so much and owning an affiliate and trying to help people achieve their goals. So we started kind of doing the videos, and they'd ask me like, okay, break down the workout. And then I naturally find myself like, okay, breaking it down like this, you should think about this. And so we kind of took that and ran with it, because that was our way of getting to share information with people and try to help people, because, you know, not everyone has a coach. Some people are working out in their garage and they want to learn and do things the right way. One, to get better, and two, for injury prevention. And that's the only way you'll excel. And so just kind of starting to take that and run with it. And it's been one of my favorite I turned Siri on somehow. It's been one of my favorite projects. So it just kind of slowly morphed, and we're just trying to listen to what people would want. And the tutorials we've chosen are actually stuff that we've done with our gym, where people are like, I would like to rewatch that. We're like, well, we'll just make a video. So then if people ask me, or they'll search the video, and then when they're practicing in the gym, they have the drills and things like that. But we wanted to take it a step further also, because someone can show you a drill, but if you don't have the strength, then we want to make sure that we're helping you build the strength so you can do the drill and you can do the progression to actually get better. And then it's just fun sharing a little bit about ourselves. Like if we can help someone, it just makes me smile, and I get tons of awesome messages and comments about it. So I really appreciate that you're also enjoying it, or
Yeah.
the content that we put up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is interesting to see because when CrossFit made that big change, when Greg made that big change of removing the media team, removing regionals, it kind of democratized a lot of the media, and athletes who had the sort of like the bug that bit them to start their own YouTube channel, I think have proven that model works. I mean, everybody always wanted more access, more FaceTime, more sort of personality from the athletes that wasn't so directly driven by CrossFit's interests with, promoting the games or promoting whatever. And I really love to see the athletes excel at that sort of thing. It's I know because I've met so many of, these games athletes like yourself and others like Noah who have these great personalities. They have things to say. They can share a lot of really useful information, but they weren't getting any opportunity to do that. And there was no incentive to take time away from their regular days to do that. And so now that there is that incentive, and now that that opportunity is there, I just am pumped that there's, a really good creator on YouTube doing good stuff. Like that's basically it.
That's awesome. And I think you made a really good point there too, is people ask me all the time, I'm like, I actually like YouTube more than I like Instagram, because YouTube, I can share who I am and a little bit more of my personality with that 10-minute or 5 to 10 minute video. So I can give you just a little bit more. And I think that's my favorite part, is being able to just share a little bit more of who I actually am, and just about myself and Patrick and our dog and the teaching and just our background. And I think that part's really fun, and I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, Kristi, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. Where can people find your YouTube channel, your Instagram channel and stuff?
So YouTube is actually Kristi Eramo. That's my maiden name. We're not really sure that's a hard thing. It's how do you name it when you get married? So we're still Kristi Eramo, KristiEramo. My Instagram is also at Kristi Eramo. Same way to spell it. And then, I have an athlete Facebook page as well on Facebook. So Kristi Eramo again. Everything is still under my maiden name, but I would love for people to check it out. And if you have comments, I'd love to read them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristi. I appreciate it.
Thank you.